that live in Davis. And then all of a sudden, 4 apartments wind up burnt down a few months later because after these illegals, meaning the Badias have a legal immigrant family, and they get a bunch of their fireworks, and a bunch of their families, the Castros, Campbell, Miller, Blades, White Trash Connect of the Campos, and the Castros, so that their white friends cover them because of drug trafficking, and they've screwed into their Zuniga families, and they're all connected in that brotherhood of Mexican mafia. They burnt down 4 apartments, and nobody got in trouble for it. And apparently they forgot how the West was won, because meanwhile, you got the Davis 4th of July blowing up all of their fireworks, at the park, right, from the city, where they are licensed to do so every year for years. And then you got on F Street parking lot a bunch of Mexicans competing with them and having no license to do so or no permission to do so. But because they've got cop family, nobody's getting them in trouble. And so they're allowed to all fucking year long misuse their fireworks, shoot off their guns, as if this is the fucking Wild West. And nobody do jack shit about it. Not the DA. Of course not the DA. Not the county that I've sued. They let them do whatever the fuck they want, including try to silence me. And so when they get bitches trying to call me, trying to say that I owe money from, trying to say, it's bullshit. I'm on disability. I don't have credit cards. I don't have any type of debt. I would have had student debt, but Obama wiped that out during his administration, and I dropped out of college because there are riots, and I couldn't get an attorney because they blacklisted me, because they're mafia, and they have cop family and media family, and they're connected to celebrities. Meanwhile, I'm related to celebrities, A-list celebrities from my grandfather's genealogy, Halle Berry, Aretha Franklin on one branch, Obama, ironically, and Brad Pitt and Bush on another branch, which is why Obama got to be president. And my military cousin's godfather is Russell Diddy Simmons, and his father is Dr. Boogie Langerston, who does hair for black celebrities like Snoop Dogg. And he has a page, and he supports his ventures with a program called My Main Problem, a TV show. He's a hairstylist for black celebrities, and he covers Elaine and Gina and Nicole because he's gay. And my cousin Tasha, who we grew up with, her son is a lifer in the military because my papa, and his father is Boogie. Okay, so Tasha is friends of Diane Rivas, who's related to Robert Rivas, who was the boss of this government employee that put a civil restraining order against me to try to silence me and retaliate against me for reporting her hate crimes and her criminal history, and asking, is she allowed to work there? Because I know she must have committed perjury to get that damn job. And they covered her ass. And Kingalata Wright was her attorney, related to Hal Wright, who was my attorney when I lived at Pinecrest. And he quashed the eviction right before I was brutalized from police, because I was telling on my neighbors and their drug trafficking and child abuses and drug pedoland and their gangbang connections. And I was illegally evicted after I quashed the eviction. And then they try to come after me with their Ponce family related to the Figueroa cops. And the Figueroa cops, you know, they've been sued from Johnny Burris for brutalizing a black man. Anthony Figueroa brutalized a black man for jaywalking in 2016. And Johnny Burris, Attorney Burris, be thou Black Panthery and racist as hell, Johnny Burris, won a lawsuit against racist Anthony Figueroa in 2016. And their families went to UOP, Graciela Figueroa, harassing me. And their other families, Eva Ponce, lived at Pinecrest, and then her family is located down the street and stays illegally at HUD, along with the Padillas and the racist DACA government employee and the Campbell Miller Blades and the Zunigas. Their Ponce family were house cleaners when I lived at Pinecrest, and I was totally OCD and my apartment was immaculate when they illegally evicted me after I survived police brutality for risking my life for my black ex-boyfriend as their retaliation for me telling on them. And they had house cleaners that wanted to charge me $3,000 illegally for cleaning my HUD apartment after I left there. And so, more than 7 years after I had already left those apartments, they tried to reopen the case UD 1644 at Woodland Courthouse, saying that I owed them $3,000. And I was like, I ain't giving you penny one. That is hella corrupt. That's hella fraud. They had Andrew Miller, a crackhead, blowing up his kitchen with meth, who was the friends of the Zunigas, staying there with them and growing pot and doing meth on his stove. And they never charged him a fucking dime. And he blew up his whole apartment. And then they let the Zunigas stay there. They're hella corrupt. They killed my stepfather, Ken Vickers. He was working for Tandem Properties of HUD. And then they made him take early retirement. And then, some years later, he got dementia and he had to go to the convalescent. But because they're mafia, they have their family working at the convalescent. A bunch of criminals and felons work at convalescents. And they were harassing him there, connected to the compost. They had they were family friends of the Bronco family, as what I call them, because they had an NFL relative that was NFL of the Broncos. And they were a black family. And their relative wanted to room with Ken. And he killed him. Ken couldn't take it anymore. He had Lewy body dementia, and this dude was harassing him, jacking up the TV, blaringly loud, harassing him all the time. And so Ken went to go pull out his catheter because this dude was relentless, and he was far younger than Ken and didn't have the health problems that Ken had. And so my mom gets a call saying that Ken is on life support because he got in a fight with this dude. And then hours later, Ken is gone because they killed him. And then they had the audacity to try to ask my mom for $8,000. My mom wasn't married to Ken, but they were together for more than 30 years. They had what was called a common law marriage that they don't honor in California. On like any type of document, but they were together. And they wanted to charge my mom $8,000 that she didn't owe, saying that he owed that, and he didn't owe them a dime. And on top of that, they harassed him. They stole his clothes. They put him in Nazi clothing because the Campos is connected to the Davis Islamic Center along with Hassan Minhaj and his Kapitel family. The Islamic Center went national for Jew-hating crimes years ago, way before the Palestinian incident, where there are very few Jews anywhere that I could think of that support Palestine being bombed. I don't know of any people that support that. But yet Jews have been ransacked with hate crimes for years, and totally in this community. Lots of swastika hate crimes against Jews in this community for years. And I'm mixed. I have Jewish DNA and also Arab DNA. And I come from a multicultural family. Got Cuban Mexicans, brothers and sisters. Brother grew up on a reservation. He's 50% Mohawk. And I'm mixed. They sent me to Northern Valley Indian Healthcare, where they hired this DACA government employee's relative, Mercedes Durgan, to violate my HIPAA rights with the Reyes family and the Renata Portillos that violate my HIPAA rights and spy on my HIPAA rights in the Davis Community Clinics and the pharmacy and talk about my personal medical shit. It's none of their goddamn business. And they do voodoo against me, trying to give me health problems. And then they won't give me a doctor. I was assigned from the DA to Northern Valley Indian Healthcare. They were supposed to get me HUD housing, and they wouldn't do it. Their program, they arrested me for filing a counter restraining order against this government employee who is, just terrorizing me for years. In 2020, her cop knocks on my mom's door trying to find out where I'm at and, trying to find out, stalking my disability payee, Mason Dave Egoff, who covers them. He covers them because he's a Mason. He was a school teacher. He was my high school teacher. And he became my disability payee. Not my conservator, my payee. So he manages my money. And he's supposed to be my advocate. And he has covered their ass for committing HUD fraud and hate crimes against me and trying to give me a bad name. And he listens to the Zunigas and all of these little fuckers spreading lies about me when he goddamn well knows that they're all a bunch of drug pedos connected to rapist Ron Herrera on Davis, California, Megan's Law, and Enrique and Jesus Campos that are convicted drug pedo murderers that kidnapped 2 teenage boys and raped and killed them, and a Jewish woman. And they served less than 3 years in prison for that. And then they got a brand new fucking life from the DA. You know why? Because they're Mexican mafia. That's why. They have the audacity to terrorize me and give me a bad name. And Dave covers their ass. I don't know why, since they got his ass fired for reporting these cops' families, these skanky Mexican chicks that went to King High School where he was the principal there, and he told on them drug trafficking with this dude that was in his 30s or 40s pulling up in a black Mustang and trafficking those girls. And now they're in their 30s and have children. And they fired Dave. When Dave went to the cops and told them about it, they said, "Mind your own business, old man." And next thing you know, he was forced into early retirement. And to make it seem like they weren't targeting him, they made all of the teachers of his generation that were my teachers when I went to high school there, they made them all take early retirement. And Dave goddamn well knows that that's true. But he won't say shit because he's an old man that doesn't want to have a bad reputation. He doesn't want to be a fucking Karen in this goddamn community. That would squash the shit out of him if he got a pair of balls. And that's too bad, Dave. Dave took me to the federal courts to file these lawsuits against the media, against the giants, against my community, against celebrities, against Lester, against cops, against my county, against the DOJ that has covered my rapists and my incest rapists and those that have terrorized me in my county for years, slashing my car tires, making death threats against me, blacklisting me from housing and proper health care. They do all this shit to me, spying on my TV and my phone, hacking my bank, all of it. And I've had to be my own litigant of these cases. 321 CV 00994. I have a documentary on my Lyricsist.1 Instagram page stating that Judge Chen says that they're allowed to be corrupt, malicious to the point of making grave decisions on people's lives because they are protected municipalities. Do you know that Trump won presidency because I also had Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom that appointed Judge Walk for judge that covered this DACA government employee and signed off on a fraudulent civil restraining order with a domestic violence cleats on a non-violent, non-criminal order to try to ruin my name, and said that I slandered her name, and they used that order to spread lies about me. They pretend it's a criminal order. I don't have nothing to do with that government employee or her family. And she spreads lies about me, her and her adult children that do not know me. I've never babysat them. I do not have nothing to do with them. They're adults. I don't know what they look like or where they work. And they're on her order. Why? She even lies about her son's name and calls him Vince when that's not his name. Her drug brother is named Vince. And that's why she put his name down like that. Because she wanted to prevent me from talking about her drug brother. She's been so corrupt, spreading all kinds of lies about me everywhere, and trying to cover my incest child fingers rapist older sister, Gina Pickett Prince, that is not a protected person on her fraudulent restraining order, said the federal court. And King Galata Wright, that was Hal Wright's relative. Hal Wright, like I said, was my old attorney, and he quashed the eviction 100 years ago. He was also the attorney of Butterscotch, who was a contestant that lost at AGT many years ago and was allowed to go on the Super Bowl commercials from my community along with Amanda Gorman. Amanda Gorman is a black civil rights poet, speaker, who's not a poet, but a speaker, talking about shit she don't know nothing about. She's got cop family that have killed people, and they're black. She don't have no right to have a lane in a space to which she don't know jack shit about. She went to Yale College. She don't know nothing about civil rights. She don't know nothing about hardship. She's got capital employee family that I've worked with this DACA government employee, even though she's totally racist and used to call a boy that we went to high school with, Kindred fry me a nigger chicken on my watermelon head, Kindred Fryer, who's friends of Octavio Hernandez, oddly connected to the Campos. She threw all of them under the bus. That's why I know, because I used to be her friend in junior high. But it's okay if she says it because she's Mexican, but I'm mostly white. Yes, but I have some black DNA. If I say something about somebody, it's true. And I don't go lying and trying to weasel and get white, gay teachers and dress them funny so that they will be that socialist advocate for me while I'm harassing the crap at a victim of crime survivor that I'm blatantly being racist against and saying that she doesn't have the right to housing. Only Mexicans do. Mexicans that work for government and are committing fraud. They make too much money. They don't qualify for HUD housing. But who cares, says Gavin Newsom. That is their friend. He's the direct friend of the Figueroas. The Figueroas are cops that go all the way up and down the coast. Paul Figueroa of Oakland, he was a part of a scandal where they demoted him for calling somebody a nigger. And his brotherhood was slammed also from Johnny Burris, Attorney Burris. Oddly, Burris is so damn corrupt, he hired Curry Aguilar's relative there of the Assemblywoman Aguilar, who was the relative Kamala Harris, and I sued all of them in this lawsuit, 321 CV 00994. Trump got to be president because I sent him that document with Kamala Harris on it, when he was being charged with 40 felonies, and they were saying that he was not a protected municipality. And when I sent that document, bam, all of a sudden he won. And all of those felonies were dropped. Because apparently all of a sudden he was a protected municipality because Kamala Harris was on that lawsuit, said Judge Chin. And 16 other governments that I sued single-handedly as a pro se litigant. Oh no, I'm single. Does that mean I don't have a ring? These cults that do cult purge with government and media and celebrities to an asshole game of violating me and chasing after a myriad of my talents that I utilize in my own lane of civil rights. Amanda Gorman is not a poet, I am, and she was let in on the Super Bowl because of Lester Hayes that wants his HOF for not being able to catch a football. Yes, he was the stickum jackass that wants HOF. He's raped people. He's a part of Diddy Gate. He's a total fucking monster. He was violent to me during sex. And that motherfucker wants HOF. Meanwhile, my military cousin's father is promoting all of this BLM bullshit and cowboy crap. Boogie. And his godfather is Russell Simmons, the greatest, biggest mogul in that industry. He's the one that paved in the way for BLM, Black Billionaire Celebrity Clubs. He's a multi-billionaire, a trailblazer. the first of that conversation. Be that as it may, where's my fucking interview? Everybody want to talk shit? Everybody want to terrorize me? Where's my goddamn money? I worked my fucking ass off teaching myself law. I was getting ready to go to law school when I had to drop out of school because of the riots in my classes terrorizing me. And then I stopped being able to drive the freeways. Yeah, it was horrific. And I couldn't get an attorney for jack shit. Sure, attorneys will support and defend rapists and murderers and gangbangers and people committing fraud and doing all sorts of fucking things. But they won't support a victim of crime survivor that has disability and has never had a felony? Are they on fucking crack or just treason? They don't give a fuck about the law any more than the law does. These judges commit fraud all the time. Conspiracy, obstruction to justice. They do not follow letter of law. They do not give a fuck. They're all about agenda. That's why I got all these DA documentaries posted. A and B law of California says that I can. My safety is in harm's way. Well, this DACA government employee states on a 2020 police report that she doesn't fear me, she never sees me, and that I'm not a harm. But she don't want to get